Have you ever dreamed of fire transforming everything around you? Imagine immersing yourself in a world where flames aren't threats, but powerful messengers that erase old fears and ignite unshakable hope in your heart. From the first moment, I felt the intense heat. I knew that vision wasn't a mere daydream, but an experience of dreams and visions of spiritual warning that would change my life forever. At first, everything was darkness. I walked down an endless corridor, my footsteps echoing like my own anxiety reflected in the silence. Suddenly, the smell of smoke filled the air, and an orange glow tore through the shadows. It was then that my fear took shape. I felt my chest tighten, my heart race, my mind scream for help. Have you ever experienced this? The feeling of dread that freezes even the soul. Stay with me until the end, because what you'll discover now may surprise you and rekindle your faith. As the fire grew, I noticed something extraordinary. Those flames didn't consume or destroy, but rather purified. Each blaze, though intense, brought with it a promise of renewal. It was as if the fear I'd carried for so long had been transformed into light ash, ready to be carried away by the wind of a new beginning. This powerful metaphor, drawn from visions of spiritual warning, shows that God sometimes needs to burn away the old so that the new can flourish. As the warmth spread, I felt a different vibration, a subtle call that invited reflection. The fire, a symbol of biblical purification, revealed that my insecurities were obstacles to be transcended. It was there, in that moment of surrender, that I realized the fire had come to erase my fears and ignite my hope, a test of faith so profound that it changed my perception of the divine. What you will discover on this journey can renew your faith in the same way. Amidst the flames, I conducted an internal dialogue. Why did this dream come to me? What message does God want to convey to me? The answer came not in words, but in sensations. I saw my own story written in embers that were turning to ash, and I understood that each burned fragment represented an emotional barrier being removed. This experience is not unique. Many ordinary people report similar dreams, where the fire does not destroy but reveals paths of healing and transformation. It's impossible to describe. Without emotion, the relief I felt when the last sparks died out. In place of fear, a soft light emerged, almost imperceptible, but firm enough to guide my steps. Hope was reborn like a bright sun after a storm of doubt. It was at that moment that I understood the purpose of visions of spiritual warning, to awaken in us the confidence that even in the darkest moments, there is a divine flame that never goes out. Have you ever wondered how to bring this flame into your daily life? Stay with me, because in the next step, we'll explore how to apply this learning of fire and faith to your own life. Together, we'll discover how to keep the light burning that dispels old insecurities and illuminates the path of hope. Prepare to uncover prophetic secrets that can transform the ordinary into the extraordinary, revealing that when the fire of faith burns within us, no fear can withstand the power of hope. As we walk together on this path of purification and rebirth, I want to hear from you. How has the fire of faith transformed your fears into ashes of hope? If this topic resonates with you, leave your thoughts in the comments below. Your experience may encourage someone who needs to hear this message today. And, since we're building this community driven by the search for divine signs, support this work by leaving a like. Every click helps spread this word of renewal to more hearts thirsting for faith. If you believe in the transformative power of prophetic visions and want to continue receiving content like this, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. This is how we ensure more people discover how God's fire can ignite a new flame of hope in their lives. Your participation here is what makes this channel grow and reach more people with this type of content, amplifying this cry for faith and courage. Now, follow me, for we still have much to unravel about the mystery that burns in our dreams. My name is Mathos Felipe Silva Ferreira, and ever since I had this prophetic dream about fire, I realized something profound had shifted in my mindset. It wasn't just a sequence of vivid images. It was an experience of such intense transformation that, upon waking, I felt as if I had stepped behind the scenes of my own soul. For years, I carried silent fears, nocturnal anxieties that prevented me from making important decisions until, that night, the glow of the flames revealed a hidden truth. Fear can be purified. Ashes can give way to renewed faith. When I shared this vision with friends and fellow travelers, some reactions surprised me due to the similarity of the stories. I remember Anna, a simple woman from the countryside, who told me she dreamed of a fire consuming the shadows of her soul. I felt each flame burning away my doubts, she said in her message, adding that the next day she found the courage to face a family conflict she had put off for years. This brief testimony reinforces the authority of what I experienced. I am not an isolated case, but part of a silent movement of ordinary people who receive prophetic revelations while they sleep. The purpose here is not simply to narrate a stunning dream, but to explore the impact this kind of vision can have on our daily lives. Imagine noticing the signs that often go unnoticed: a shiver when listening to a song, a phrase that jumps out at you in a Bible verse, a sudden idea that pops into your head at the precise moment of a dilemma. These small sparks may be inviting, but the dream I described goes further. It is a bold invitation to reevaluate our beliefs, to transform our inner journey. By understanding the symbolism of flames, we discover that each spark of courage spreads a wave of hope. The sensory narrative I presented was not chosen at random. There is a unique power in recreating the images and sounds of a dream, the warmth spreading across the skin, the crackling of embers, the smell of burning wood mixed with the scent of freedom. These details awaken genuine emotions, connecting the viewer to their own experience of overcoming adversity. It's like opening a portal to the backstage of the human spirit, revealing that, often, the greatest lessons come not from books or sermons, but from prophetic messages that arrive from where we least expect them. Ultimately, this story is about decisions that change destinies. Deciding to face fear head-on, allowing it to become the impetus for action. Deciding to trust in something greater, even when everything seems doubtful. The transformation I propose doesn't require long journeys or heroic feats. It begins with an inner step, a seed of faith planted in the ashes of what has already been lost. This shift in mindset can generate a domino effect, reaching those around us and creating a movement of collective healing. Now I want to delve even deeper into this topic, exploring how you can recognize similar signs in your own routine and how to apply them practically. But first, I need to know. Comment, I'm on this journey too. Now I want to delve even deeper into this topic, exploring what dreams and visions of spiritual warning truly mean, and why they are so essential to our faith journey today. When we speak of visions of warning, we are not talking about mere dream images or nocturnal coincidences. They are divine communication that often occurs behind the scenes, in our unconscious, but has a profound impact on our mindset and the decisions we make throughout the day. In other words, these revelations do not arise by chance. They awaken within us a hidden truth, a seed of transformation that already existed but needed a catalyst to germinate. In recent years, we have seen a growing interest in testimonies from ordinary people, housewives, students, professionals from various fields who report symbolic experiences where fire, light, or even specific sounds convey messages of warning or comfort. This happens because, in a world saturated with information and visual and auditory stimuli, God chooses to use a more intimate and subjective channel, dreams. It is in this realm of the soul, far from the noise of everyday life, that spiritual vigilance manifests itself most directly, almost like a dramatic invitation to revisit deep-seated beliefs and past decisions. But why do these dreams matter so much today? First, because we live in an era of transition in which many people feel an existential void, a misalignment between what they see externally and what they long for internally. These warning dreams act as a mirror to the soul, revealing areas of life where faith has been dormant or where old fears still hold sway. By awakening to these powerful images, we are compelled to question our routine and direct our energy toward a more authentic search for purpose. Transformation, in this context, is not just emotional or psychological, but spiritual. It is about realigning our trajectory with a divine calling. Second, these visions remind us that there is a hidden dimension of reality, where messages of love and mercy seek to reach willing hearts. The rational mindset, focused only on what is tangible, often dismisses reports of prophetic dreams as fantasies. However, when we hear testimonies of people whose lives were radically changed after receiving such warnings, whether through the courage gained to face a health problem or a career change guided by divine intuition, we realize a consistent pattern. The revelation acts as a turning point, a watershed moment in each person's personal history. Third, understanding the prophetic context of these experiences opens the possibility of discernment. It's not just about recounting a dream at random, but about learning to interpret signs, symbols, and sensations that may appear repeatedly. The hue of colors, the recurring elements, and even the bodily sensations experienced during the dream are clues that, when studied carefully, allow us to detect the meaning of each message. When applied practically, this method helps strengthen faith and build a journey consistent with divine plans, avoiding shortcuts that could lead to hasty decisions. Furthermore, these spiritual reminders foster a community of support and shared experiences. By sharing our nightly visits, whether filled with purifying fire or subtle warning signs, we create a space for empathetic listening, where each story adds a new piece of the puzzle of faith to the community. This exchange of stories is an exercise in vulnerability that strengthens our sense of belonging, as we realize we are not alone in our internal struggles. Instead of hiding or minimizing what we experience, we begin to see our dreams as part of a greater truth, connecting us to others who are also willing to transform. Another crucial point is the decision-making process inspired by these visions. When someone wakes up with the conviction that they must forgive an old offense, end a toxic cycle, or dedicate more time to prayer, they often find within themselves the motivation and clarity necessary to act. It's as if, upon emerging from the dreamlike waking state, we are alert to see possibilities previously hidden by the fog of fear. Thus we see a domino effect. A single prophetic revelation can trigger a series of conscious choices that reverberate in relationships, careers, and spiritual health. Beyond all this, it's worth noting that visions of spiritual warning also challenge our understanding of time and space. How many times have we heard stories of dreams that seem to predict future events or offer solutions before we even knew there was a problem? This phenomenon makes us question how the divine operates outside of human limitations, acting in a dimension where past, present, and future intertwine. By perceiving this rupture in linearity, we are invited to adopt a new stance toward reality, one of active faith, capable of expecting the unexpected and remaining steadfast even in the face of adverse circumstances. Finally, it's important to emphasize that interpreting these dreams and visions requires humility. Although we can identify common symbols such as fire, representing purification, or water symbolizing renewal, each person has a unique inner universe. Therefore, seeking guidance, whether through reading sacred texts, conversations with spiritual leaders, or studying dream symbolism, becomes a fundamental step to avoid falling into superficial interpretations. This careful investigation is part of the process of revelation that accompanies us, teaching us to cultivate a mature spirituality grounded in truth. Now I want to delve even deeper into this topic, showing you how to recognize these signs in practice and translate them into concrete actions that transform your faith routine. The next step will detail simple methods for recording dreams, observing patterns, and, above all, keeping the flame of hope alive, even amidst the most persistent doubts. Comment below, this makes sense to me. Now I want to delve even deeper into this topic, diving headfirst into the sensory description of the beginning of this prophetic dream that changed everything. Imagine the enveloping darkness, so dense it seemed capable of swallowing all the space around you. It was like floating within a silent vacuum, where every heartbeat echoed like a distant drum. There was nothing but shadows, but I could feel the icy air tearing at my skin, an invisible current that heralded the presence of something powerful to come. And then came the smell of smoke. At first, subtle, almost imperceptible, like the aroma of incense slowly dissipating. Gradually, however, this smell transformed into something stronger, more urgent, reminiscent of the burnt leather of an old trunk, forgotten in the attic. Mixed with the sweet scent of wood dried by time, this odor carried a promise of transformation, activating dormant memories and awakening a deep, almost instinctive curiosity to discover the origin of this fragrance that seemed to speak directly to the soul. As my sense of smell sharpened, a crackling sound began to fill the air. At first, it was an isolated snap, like a dry twig snapping under an unexpected stomp, but it soon became a symphony of crackles, hisses, and whispers of live embers. It was as if ancient souls were whispering ancient secrets, each hiss adding a layer of mystery. I felt like I was navigating a tunnel where the sound of fire announced its arrival even before the red flames tore through the darkness. At that moment, a gentle breeze brought an unexpected contrast. The freshness of night dew insinuated itself amidst the impending heat. This duality between cold and heat foreshadowed the drama of what was to come, a phenomenon that wasn't limited to the physical, but reached the emotional, psychological, and, above all, the spiritual. I felt an internal vibration, a tingling in my bones, as if my body recognized the call of something greater, something that, behind the scenes of my unconscious, was drawing a roadmap for liberation. Suddenly, a point of light began to appear in the distance. It was faint, orange, but steady enough to overcome the relentless darkness. As the point shone brighter, the shadows receded, revealing strangely familiar textures, the rough surface of ancient rock, deep cracks that looked like maps of untold stories, and, in the distance, a half-open door, pulsing with a growing glow. The sight brought a mixture of fear and fascination, a magnetism that urged me forward, but also made my legs tremble. As I approached, every detail became clearer. I could see the outline of my own hands raised in front of my face, as if to protect me from what was to come, but also to feel the heat that promised purification. The crackling sound grew louder, almost like an invitation, and the smell of smoke intensified, now mixed with a faint citrus aroma, like dried fruit peels burning over embers. This unusual combination reinforced the feeling that this dream was there to show me not just a path of ardor, but a portal to complete renewal. For an instant, the tunnel dissipated, and I found myself in a vast, nearly infinite space, where darkness was overcome by a field of incandescent embers. The flames danced in colors ranging from intense orange to deep crimson, with occasional blue sparks that appeared and disappeared like coded signals. It was a hypnotic spectacle, the heat so real I could feel the ripples spreading to the center of my chest, burning away ancient fears and preparing the ground for what was to come. At that precise moment, the sound ceased to be a mere crackling and transformed into a deep, almost palpable chant. It was as if ancient voices had joined together in a melody that reverberated within the invisible walls of that place, uttering a promise that after the trial by fire, liberation would come. My senses were completely captivated. The heat, the smell, the noise, and the sight converged to create a state of heightened awareness, where everyday reality seemed distant and irrelevant. It was then that, amidst the dancing sparks, I spotted an unknown object, a small, solitary flame, clearer and brighter than the others, floating freely, consuming nothing around it. This flame seemed pure spirit, a fragment of the divine materialized in fire. I held it to my eyes, feeling a wave of peace erode the last lingering resistance of fear. That gentle glow whispered that, even in the most intense experiences, there is a spark of hope that never fades. And so, at that precise moment, my dream reached its sensory peak, heralding the turning point that would transform fear into ashes and usher in an era of inner renewal. The combination of darkness, smoke, sound, and light was no mere dream device, but a carefully orchestrated script to touch every part of me, mind, body, and spirit. It was an irresistible invitation to a journey of self-discovery and courage, where each element played a role in the co-creation of a new reality. Now I want to go even deeper into this subject. Comment: this makes sense to me now. I want to delve even deeper into this subject, revisiting the exact moment when fear reached its peak, even before fire emerged as an instrument of transformation. Imagine yourself again in that protruding darkness, embraced by shadows that stretched out from every corner, like cold fingers ready to touch you. Every step I took made the ground feel unstable, as if the ground were about to crumble beneath my feet. My entire body trembled with tension, and I could feel the sweat running down my hands, leaving my palms clammy and slippery, unable to grip any surface. My breath came fast and irregular, as if my lungs were trying to escape my chest, and each sigh hurt, trapping the air in some hidden part of my chest. It was then that my heart nearly leaped into my throat. The feeling that something terrifying would appear at any moment sent shivers down my spine. It wasn't just a chill down my spine. It was a profound sense of vulnerability, as if an invisible giant were about to crush me. The accelerated heartbeat echoed in my ears, nearly drowning out every other sound, and the deafening roar of fear itself turned every second into an eternity. I felt my legs tremble, ready to give way, and my instincts screamed for me to retreat. But there was nowhere to run. The trap was complete, and dread had me trapped in an invisible knot between body and soul. At that moment, even my sharpest senses seemed to betray me. The smell of smoke, though vague, mingled with the acrid odor of terror itself, creating a perfume of despair that enveloped me entirely. It was like being submerged in a gelatinous liquid that sucked away all the courage I thought I possessed. And then, every fiber of my being seemed to vibrate in sync with a distant flash, a harbinger of the approaching heat. But, at that height, I still didn't know if that light would be my salvation or something even more terrifying. Meanwhile, a subtly high-pitched sound cut through the air, a sort of buzzing, barely perceptible, that grew almost torturously loud. It was as if a swarm of insects were invading my ears, insistently playing a dissonant melody. That soundtrack of fear forced me to close my eyes, trying to silence the stimuli, but closing my eyelids only intensified the darkness within. The image of dancing shadows, projected by my imagination, superimposed itself on the dreamlike reality, creating a chaotic spectacle where I was both the audience and the protagonist of a living nightmare. My mind, in a state of extreme alert, began to search for logical explanations for such dread. What's about to happen? Can I control this? Is someone watching me? But all these questions were blind, for the terror was self-referential, a force that came from within, born from the deepest corners of my psyche. Each thought brought with it a cold tingle, running down my spine, while my body shrank in an instinctive attempt to protect itself from an unknown danger. At that point, the darkness seemed to close like a visor, restricting my field of vision to a narrow tunnel of hopelessness. The atmosphere was charged with pure tension, as if I were trapped in a compartment suspended between two worlds, the conscious and the unconscious, the real and the symbolic. And it was in this liminal space that fear showed itself in its rawest form, demanding an immediate response. I felt the need to react, but there was no possible reaction that didn't involve confronting the very essence of terror. It was then, in the deafening silence imposed by my racing heart, that I heard a crack, louder than all the others. A single crack capable of fracturing the barrier between anguish and high alert. And for a brief second, I stopped breathing. Precisely at the moment I knew something was about to happen. That moment of absolute, almost surgical pause was the threshold between supreme fear and the prophetic revelation that would follow. My mind remained suspended, waiting for the impact that would redefine the experience. This peak of fear before the fire wasn't random. It existed so I could recognize the depth of my own uncertainties, so I could realize that, often, what haunts us aren't external threats, but internal shadows fueled by accumulated doubts. The snap that silenced the dread was, in fact, a call for me to make room for something greater, something that would pierce the veil of terror and reveal itself as a purifying light. And it was at this very point of rupture that fire appeared, not as destruction, but as an instrument of restoration. But before I talk about the heat that turned every fear to ash, I need to go through the transitional process that connects the ultimate anguish to the breath of hope that followed. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject, exploring how that moment of absolute fear generated the spark necessary for the fire, symbolizing divine truth, to manifest. Comment: that makes sense to me. The darkness that enveloped me seemed to allow no light, but it was precisely in this absolute emptiness that the transformative flames emerged like a divine breath from nowhere. First, an amber point appeared, so delicate it seemed ready to be extinguished by the slightest breath of wind. Soon, however, that spark took on a life of its own and expanded like a festival of brilliance, intensifying in hues ranging from deep orange to vivid red, until it reached nuances of incandescent gold that seemed to capture the essence of every hidden truth in my heart. The heat, initially faint, gradually approached, as if each wave tested my emotional resistance, preparing me for the impact to come. Within seconds, the dark field was invaded by a spectacle of light and energy. The flames, capable of consuming any fear, didn't behave like ordinary fire. They pulsed from within, as if a life of their own illuminated each blaze. Their brightness wasn't blinding, but rather revealed contours and textures that had, until then, been hidden in the shadows of dreams. Dark walls became prominent, and every crack in the ground began to emit a soft glow, like veins of crystal heated to convey a message. I could feel the heat on my skin, spreading in concentric waves, warming not only my body but also my soul, reshaping the way I perceived my own anguish. With each crack, the atmosphere vibrated at a new frequency. The luminous intensity was not static. Sometimes it concentrated in tall, radiant flames. Sometimes it dwindled to tiny points that danced around like spiritual fireflies. This oscillating movement created a rhythm, a kind of pulse that reminded me of a divine heart beating in tune with the universe. It was impossible not to be mesmerized, as each variation of color and brightness seemed to whisper a word of encouragement, a promise of transformation. What were those flames here to communicate? I wondered, overcome by a curiosity that spoke louder than any previous fear. When I finally approached, I could discern the precise sensation of the heat, a mixture of welcome and challenge, as if the fire were saying, "Come, allow me to touch what is most intimate within you." My skin tingled slightly, as if thousands of tiny points of energy were rising up my spine, bringing a heightened awareness. This was no mere dream. It was a portal to understanding that, before igniting hope, I must burn away everything that separated me from it. I saw then that the flames carried luminous, almost ethereal particles that gently detached and floated like spirits of light, trailing a brilliant trail that illuminated the path ahead. Amidst that fiery dance, I realized that each color had a different purpose. The intense red seemed to sharpen courage, the orange conveyed pure joy, the gleaming yellow symbolized emerging wisdom, and the gold, the promise of a greater purpose. These chromatic layers formed a mosaic of meanings, a prophetic code that required sensitivity to decipher. As I faced this display of flashes, I understood that the fire came to communicate that transformation is not immediate, but a journey of gradual metamorphosis, where each fragment of light represents a step toward renewal. It wasn't just a visual or thermal experience. There was a barely perceptible sound, like a murmur of voices singing in unison, but without definite words, just vibrations that resonated deep within my chest. This symphony of fire acted as a soundtrack to a scene of profound revelations, unfolding as the flames moved. Each time a flame rose, I felt deep within me a spark of clearer resolve, a drive to leave behind old patterns and embrace a new sense of self. The impact was so real that upon awakening, I knew that image would remain etched forever as a turning point. It was at that moment that I understood the power of this prophetic phenomenon. It was not a fire that destroys aimlessly, but flames that sculpt and refine, reminiscent of a divine craftsman's forge who shapes character through trials. The intensity was enough to incinerate fears, but also sweet enough to warm hope, symbolizing the union of challenge and consolation. The revelation that emerged from that fiery spectacle was the certainty that each tribulation can serve as a springboard for spiritual evolution, requiring a mindset willing to embrace the heat of growth. As I watched the flames with curious anticipation, a sense of fellowship arose with all the people who, across centuries and cultures, had also received prophetic dreams involving fire. I thought of ancient accounts, of narratives of transformation, where heavenly fire purified kingdoms and hearts. The connection between that personal dream and the tradition of prophetic visions reinforced the authority of this phenomenon. I was witnessing an experience that reverberated through time, a universal call to renew faith and rewrite history itself. The intensity of the flames didn't diminish, but I no longer felt fear. On the contrary, it was as if I were immersed in a warm embrace, each flame whispering encouragement and truth. The journey of transformation took shape before my eyes, presenting itself not as a final destination, but as an ongoing process of decisions and revelations. The flame that most caught my attention was a small, bluish one, flickering in the corner of my vision. Its unusual color aroused even more curiosity. Could this be the heart of the message? I thought, imagining that there might lie the key to fully deciphering the dream. Now I want to delve even deeper into this topic, exploring the meaning of this blue flame and how it integrates with the rest of the prophetic experience. Comment below. I'm on this journey too. The dance of flames continued to intensify as, before my eyes, fear began to find its purest outcome, the combustion that converted anguish into light ashes, ready to be carried away by the wind of renewal. Every fragment of apprehension I carried, within me that inner voice that whispered doubts and hesitations was touched by a precise flame, transforming into particles of luminous dust. It was like observing an ancient ritual, where fire, far from destroying chaotically, performed a work of refinement, eliminating emotional and mental impurities in a controlled and intentional manner. The spectacle of transformation seemed orchestrated behind the scenes of the universe, with each flame meticulously choosing a piece of fear to burn. I saw the edges of each little fear, be it the fear of failing a project, the insecurity in everyday decisions, or even that silent fear of not being worthy of receiving deeper revelations rising into sparks, giving way to a space of clarity. The scene was almost cinematic. A fragment of doubt would fly, enter the warm embrace of the fire, and within moments disappear, leaving only a faint gray trail. This visual image of cleansing brought a relief as tangible as a cool breeze after a deep, hot shower. As fear consumed me, I felt a unique pulse within me, a rhythm that seemed to synchronize mind and heart. It was as if the ashes, as they fell, activated a sensor deep within me, releasing neurotransmitters of hope and courage. With each symbolic log that faded, I experienced a liberation that went beyond the psychological. It was a spiritual discharge, a message that the truth hidden beneath my insecurities was ready to emerge. This transition from darkness to light, from rigidity to flow, had a visceral impact. I was no longer a prisoner of old patterns, but an active agent in my own journey of transformation. In this state of inner vigilance, I realized the relevance of the decisions that awaited me. When fear gives way to fire and turns to ash, fertile ground remains for choices that reflect our true essence. It was as if the dream was showing me, with surprising clarity, that each time we allow ourselves to face our shadows, we create new soil where seeds of faith and determination can grow powerfully. The metaphor of fear turning to ash gains strength, because, once the fuel of doubt is gone, the remaining heat is only the heat of conviction. Directing the mind toward horizons of confidence, my senses remained heightened. The sweet smell of grayish smoke mingled with the aroma of damp earth, as if I were in the midst of a furnace, oblivious to time but connected to the origins of creation. Each fragment of ash that hung in the air carried with it an invisible record of what had been overcome, a reminder that the process of purification involves not only erasing what ails us, but also embracing what remains as a testament to our progress. The cleansing wasn't cold or distant, but filled with a gentle warmth that enveloped me with a sense of welcome, signaling that a new cycle was about to begin. As I observed this intimate spectacle of regeneration, a reflection emerged. How many of us live with flames of fear hidden beneath the surface? How often do we let silent doubts guide our decisions, unaware that a process of internal burning could transform the entire scenario? The beauty of this revelation lies in understanding that prophetic fire is not limited to dreams. It acts as a mechanism of self-knowledge and self-healing, inviting us to rewrite our story with the lost ink of enthusiasm and conviction. It was then that I noticed a subtle shift in the tone of the flames. Previously predominantly warm, they began to display nuances of silver and light gray, symbols of purity and balance. These colors conveyed the sense that the greatest danger had already been overcome, the internal danger that makes us doubt our worth. The chromatic transition wasn't just aesthetic. It was a visual representation of the transformative impact taking place within me. Where once there had been the intense red of dread, now resided the soft glow of serenity, an energetic calm built from the very ashes of fear. At that point, I understood that the fire acted on two fronts. It burned away the dreadful and simultaneously generated a warmth of encouragement. It was as if, with each consumed fragment, a spark of confidence arose in its place, fueling a renewed mindset. I felt my emotional defenses dissolving, making room for a greater receptivity to the revelations that were yet to come. This sense of inner cleansing was as impactful as the first flash of light that tore through the darkness of the dream, and as necessary as the fresh air that follows an ash storm. The sight of that great terrain, now illuminated by the remnants of a soft flame, conveyed powerful symbolism. The ashes do not represent an end, but a crucial stage of fertilization. Just as in agriculture, where ash is used to enrich the soil, the dream process I experienced showed that, after facing each fear, we are invited to reap the fruits of a more mature and resolute faith. This revelation, felt intensely in the background of the dream, reveals the true impact of courageous decisions. They transform the soul's terrain into a field of opportunity. I realized that, in creating such a vivid visual metaphor, the goal was to guide me to a state of profound receptivity. The ashes, light and almost translucent, floated in the dream space like small altars of memory, reminding me that no transformation occurs without a process of loss. We must lose fear to gain conviction. We must let go of the old to embrace the new, and, in this scenario, each small particle of ash represented not only what I was leaving behind, but also what I was becoming capable of embracing: revelations, conscious decisions, and a renewed existence of active faith. Now I want to delve even deeper into this topic, exploring how this cleaning metaphor can be applied to our daily routines and relationships, bringing to light choices that reinforce the flame of hope amidst everyday challenges. Write it down. I'm on this journey too. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject, revealing the moment when atop the ashes of consumed fear, a soft light emerged, bringing with it a new vibration of hope. After witnessing those grayish particles float in the air, I felt a subtle movement of energy around me, as if the atmosphere itself had been reconfigured. It was almost imperceptible, but enough to perceive a change in temperature. The intense heat gave way to a milder touch, and the scent of smoke transformed into a fresh aroma, reminiscent of a flowery field after rain. This transition of sensations signaled that the cycle of purification had not ended in the fire, but was now advancing to the stage of inner blossoming. As the residual dust settled, a faint luminescence began to spread from the spot where the fire had burned brightest. This light was not blinding. On the contrary, it was welcoming, similar to the soft glow of a lit candle on a silent night. Each ray of this luminosity seemed to emanate a warmth of encouragement, beckoning me to take a deep breath and accept the visceral impact of this transformation. My body, previously tense and vibrating with fear, relaxed naturally, as if knowing the critical moment had passed. At the same time, my mind cleared. Confused thoughts and old worries gave way to a sense of clarity, as if an opaque curtain had been lifted to reveal a vast horizon of possibilities. It was within this luminous aura that I perceived an almost musical vibration, almost like a distant echo of chants that resonated at a vibrational level, directly touching every fiber of my being. This silent melody contained no words, but conveyed a clear message: faith is reborn when fear disappears. I felt this rebirth as a wave of conviction that began in my heart and spread throughout my body, inspiring a bolder mental stance and a predisposition to make decisions based on confidence, no longer insecurity. The transformation was happening behind the scenes of my soul, but it reverberated in every conscious thought, profoundly affecting my mentality. My eyes, previously accustomed to darkness, now discerned soft contours around the dreamlike space. I could see ethereal forms reminiscent of green fields at dawn, with filaments of light that touched the surroundings like silver threads. This scene reinforced the impression that I had been called out of an emotional winter and into a spring of revelations. Each luminous sprout represented a glimmer of hope, a promise that, even after the most intense trial, there could be rebirth and growth. It was an invitation to embrace the journey of change, understanding that sometimes we must go through fire to discover the fertile ground that lies just beyond. That as I immersed myself in this renewed sensation, I realized that the light also acted as an invitation to introspection. I felt a gentle warmth in my chest, accompanied by a desire to reflect on the decisions that had led me to that point. It was as if the light itself were asking me, which direction will you choose now, free from the weight of doubt? This silent interrogation generated an intense internal dialogue, leading me to recognize hidden truths that I had previously avoided facing. The sudden clarity drew my attention to patterns of behavior and automatic thoughts that, however subtle, were impeding my progress. It was a call to readjust the course of life, based on principles of courage and trust. This sensory experience of rebirth wasn't limited to the subjective realm. I felt an almost physical lightness in my body, as if my cells had absorbed pure energy of renewal. The dreamlike sky, previously heavy with shadows, gave way to a clear firmament filled with twinkling stars. Each luminous point overhead seemed a reminder that, even in the darkest moments, there is a spark of light ready to guide us. This realization reinforced the metaphorical impact. The ashes don't signify destruction, but a prelude to a spectacle of light and life. Deep down, I recognized that this awakening of hope was, at the same time, a decisive step in changing my mindset. Individual transformation is a daily decision, fueled by conscious choices that reflect our new inner disposition. By experiencing this gentle light, I understood that faith is not a flame that burns in isolation. It gains strength by spreading, by inspiring others to believe in greater possibilities. I saw, behind the scenes of this dream, a reminder that our spiritual journey is not solitary. It connects to a web of collective experiences, where each personal revelation contributes to a greater wave of renewal. The feeling of calm and inspiration began to shape my thoughts. I imagined applying this energy of hope to my daily routines, waking up with gratitude, making decisions based on conviction rather than insecurity, seeking to understand the small warnings of everyday life as gateways to opportunities for growth. It was a paradigm shift, an updated way of seeing life, where each challenge became an invitation to evolution, not an insurmountable barrier. This new mindset, nourished by the light that emerged from the ashes, symbolized a cycle of continuous transformation. As the light spread, I realized the profound metaphor. Just as in the dream, we too must allow the inner fire to burn away our fears so that true clarity and inspiration can emerge. This clarity is not merely intellectual, but emotional and spiritual, connecting our mind, body, and spirit in a synergy of trust. The shift from fire consuming the shadows to the rebirth of a peaceful light illustrates that. In every phase of trial, there is a turning point where we can choose to embrace hope rather than give in to discouragement. Reflecting on this process brought one certainty: the impact of prophetic visions is not limited to the dream, but should extend to waking life. Applying this experience means cultivating emotional self-care practices, developing a mindset of gratitude, and remaining vigilant to the small sparks of intuition that arise in our daily lives. In this way, we allow the revelations to continue throughout the journey, reinforcing the conviction that we are guided by a greater purpose, capable of transforming fears into fuel for growth. Now I want to delve even deeper into this topic, exploring practical methods to keep this flame of hope alive and integrate the lessons of this dream into every daily decision. Comment below. I'm on this journey too. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject, revealing the prophetic meaning behind the flames that consumed my fears and ignited new faith in my heart. In biblical tradition, fire often symbolizes purification and refinement, acting as a divine agent that purges what is impure and strengthens what is valuable. In Malachi 3:2-3, we read that the Lord will come, and who can endure the day of his coming? For he is like a refiner's fire, and like slaked lime, he will sit to refine and purify the sons of Levi, purifying them like gold and silver. This powerful image shows us that before we are invited to walk in full faith, we must pass through the crucible of trials, where the flames remove everything that prevents us from reflecting divine glory. Thus, the prophetic fire in my dream was not a threat, but a solemn call to embrace an inner purification, capable of renewing my mindset and my decisions in a profound and lasting way. As I interpreted this vision, I realized that each flame represented an invitation to examine hidden corridors of the soul, revealing truths we often ignore in the hustle and bustle of everyday life. The fear that turned to ash symbolized old thought patterns that tacitly keep us stagnant. When the fire touched these limitations, I was forced to recognize that, to advance on my spiritual journey, I would need to leave behind insecurities and limiting beliefs. This process of transformation, though intense, has a liberating impact. It's like peeling away layers of resistance until we find a core of pure faith, ready to be strengthened. On several prophetic passages, the Lord uses fire to illustrate his presence and his judgment simultaneously. In the desert with the Israelites, a cloud of fire indicated direction, ensuring care and guidance, while on Mount Sinai, flames were a sign of revelation and holy fear. This duality reminds us that divine fire not only purifies but also guides, illuminating paths of hidden truth and wise decisions. In my dream, the essence of this fire united the warmth of divine love with the rigor of a call to unshakable faith, a combination that challenges inner cowardice and inspires courage to face challenges with renewed confidence. The prophet Isaiah, upon hearing the divine call, exclaimed, "Here am I, send me." Isaiah unbonding the lapan, demonstrating that purification by inner fire precedes a true commitment to the heavenly mission. These prophetic scenes teach us that, before serving a higher purpose, we must experience testing, for it is in the crucible that spiritual leaders are born, prepared to face trials without retreating. By bringing this authority to my own dream experience, I understood that each flame that burned away my fear not only served to illuminate my personal path, but also to position me as a living witness that authentic transformation only occurs when we accept the divine fire as an agent of change. Spiritual interpretation, however, is not limited to mere theological metaphors. It translates into concrete practices, reflecting daily on the messages received, praying for wisdom to discern the signs, and recognizing small sparks of intuition that arise in everyday situations. This truth hidden behind the scenes of the unconscious can manifest as a breath of intuition before an important decision or a sudden insight while reading a sacred text. When we nourish this prophetic sensitivity, we establish a dynamic connection with the divine, allowing the fire of faith to continue to refine our mind and strengthen our spirit. Furthermore, the impact of this revelation reaches not only the individual but the entire community of faith. When we share experiences of inner purification, we encourage others to confront their own fears and seek the same flame of hope. This synergy of testimonies creates an atmosphere of mutual encouragement, fostering collective spiritual awakening. In Scripture, we see that the works of one person reflect the growth of the whole. Paul, in his letters, exhorts his brothers to fan the flame of the gift they have received to Timothy 1-6, suggesting that it is our responsibility to keep the light burning in each heart alive. The journey that begins with flames of fear and extends to the soft light of hope is not linear. It requires patience, perseverance, and humility. It is a cycle of breaking and rebuilding, where each time we allow the divine fire to transform an area of our lives, we are better able to receive even deeper revelations. The metaphor of refining in the fire refers to the transformation of raw metal into an object of value. And, likewise, each decision made based on solid faith becomes a brick in the construction of unshakable faith. As I contemplate this prophetic call, I am reminded that true spiritual authority arises from genuine experience with the purifying fire. These are not empty words, but convictions ingrained by experience. Therefore, I conclude this reflection by acknowledging that the interpretation of my dream, grounded in reliable verses and the wisdom of the prophets, serves as a lens for deciphering the nocturnal visitations of those seeking divine signs. Each person can find, in their own context, fragments of fire that point to inner cleansing and a rebirth of hope. Now I want to delve even deeper into this topic, exploring how we can systematically record and interpret these dreams and visions, in order to strengthen our faith and guide our daily decisions with greater clarity and purpose. Comment below. This makes sense to me. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject, and to show that this experience isn't something restricted to my own dream world. I want to share real testimonies from ordinary people who, like me, were touched by prophetic dreams involving fire and inner transformation. These stories reveal the impact such an intense vision can have on someone's life, evidencing that this is not an isolated case, but a hidden truth pulsating behind the scenes of the collective consciousness. Mariana, a 38-year-old public school teacher, lived in a cycle of doubts about her vocation and felt her mindset trapped by insecurities since childhood. One autumn night, she dreamed she was walking through a barren field and felt her feet sink into cold ash. Suddenly, blue flames appeared around her, drawing circles of light that slowly rotated as if painting a mandala of hope in the air. Each ray of fire burned away a heavy word she carried: failure, fear, regret. Upon waking, she felt an inexplicable relief, almost as if her subconscious had performed a deep cleansing ritual. In the following days, she began teaching with renewed passion, reorganized her schedule, and made the decision to enroll in a personal development course, something she had been putting off for years. For Mariana, the dream was the trigger that unlocked a new stage in her journey, leading her to review decisions and adopt a mindset of self-acceptance that transformed not only her career but also her family relationships. Carlos, a 45-year-old maintenance technician, was tormented by a persistent fear of losing his job. His decisions were based on the fear of making mistakes, which generated a cycle of anxiety that affected his sleep and his concentration at work. One early morning, he had a vivid dream. He was watching a controlled fire in a lumberyard, where the orange flames consumed only the rotten parts of the material, preserving the strong boards. The intense crackling was accompanied by soft voices saying, "Only what is no longer useful needs to go. What is useful remains to sustain the new." Upon awakening, Carlos felt a striking clarity. He understood that, to advance in life, he would need to abandon limiting beliefs about his capabilities. The next day, he asked for a promotion and offered to lead an improvement project at the factory. His leader responded positively, impressed by his proactive approach. From that point on, Carlos began to approach his daily routine with new energy, feeling strengthened whenever he remembered the fire that taught him to discard his fears and embrace the potential of his own strength. These two testimonies reveal how spiritual warning dreams can act as catalysts for genuine change. When symbolic, fire burns away what holds us back, be it negative thought patterns, old insecurities, or panicked descents. A ray of light opens, allowing new ideas, new motivations, and, above all, a renewed mindset to emerge. Transformation, in this context, is not limited to a single event, but inaugurates a series of revelations that unfold in everyday life, from small actions to decisions that redefine careers, relationships, and personal projects. It's curious to note how, in these stories, there's a common pattern of symbols: the fire that purifies, the ashes that cleanse, the cold or warm light that emerges to illuminate the hidden truth. These elements present themselves in a surprisingly coherent way, almost like a universal script operating behind the scenes of the collective unconscious, guiding each individual to discover a greater purpose. The dream experience, however particular, reaches a point of connection with humanity's ancestral memories, where fire has always represented renewal and rebirth. By listening to these stories, we are invited to recognize the power the unconscious holds to show us unimaginable directions. Mariana's arid field and Carlos's lumberyard are not mere fantasy settings, but living metaphors for inner realities that cry out for purification. The impact of this prophetic revelation is reflected in the way each embraced a new approach to life. Mariana enthusiastically rediscovered her calling, and Carlos renewed his confidence to the point of placing himself in a leadership position. Both underwent a process of transformation that began in the dream and reverberated in every decision they made afterward. These accounts also reinforce The importance of paying attention to symbolic details. The color of the flames, the rhythm of the crackling, the odor of the smoke, and the heat felt on the dream's skin. All of these elements serve as clues to deciphering the dream's message. When we are able to jot down these impressions upon waking and reflect on them, we draw a personal map of revelations. It is through this exercise of interpretation that we discover how to apply the lessons learned to real life. Translating ethereal visions into concrete actions that promote a change in mindset and choices more aligned with our purpose. The journey of each of these dreamers shows that spirituality lives not only in temples or sacred texts, but also in the sensory experiences that occur while we sleep. It is behind the scenes of our unconscious that the divine often reaches us, using powerful metaphors to reveal truths veiled by routine and mental fatigue. The call to faith then materializes in the inner fire that inspires us to make courageous decisions, revise patterns, and embrace the process of personal metamorphosis. Realizing that these experiences can be repeated in different contexts and with people of such diverse backgrounds, we understand that there is a collective invitation to awaken a mindset of continuous discovery. No matter where you are in your professional, family, or spiritual journey, the prophetic fire of dreams can emerge to remind you that a change of course is possible and that even after the greatest trials, there is always room for the rebirth of hope. Now, I want to delve even deeper into this topic, showing you how to map these experiences and create a dream interpretation routine that strengthens your faith and leads to transformative decisions in your daily life. Write it down. I'm on this journey too. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject, and so that the journey we experience in dreams isn't restricted to the shadows of dreams. It's essential to bring that flame of faith into our daily lives, keeping it burning with each awakening, with each small choice. The transformation we experience isn't limited to the symbolic realm. It needs to fuel our mindset every day, guiding decisions based on confidence, not insecurity. Therefore, today's practical lesson consists of cultivating simple yet powerful rituals that connect us to the warmth of inner refinement and the revelations that the divine whispers amidst the most mundane routines. As soon as you wake up, before even allowing everyday thoughts to invade your mind, try dedicating a moment to inner silence. Close your eyes and breathe deeply, feeling the air move through every part of your body. Visualize the fire of your dream as a gentle light igniting the center of your chest, dissolving any lingering doubts that have migrated to your most recent dreams. This morning, meditation practice requires no more than 2 minutes, but it activates a starting point for the day, realigning your attention to what truly matters, keeping the purpose of faith burning within you alive. Throughout the day, when you encounter stressful or anxious situations that delay at work, a disturbing piece of news, or even a personal conflict, set aside a moment for a brief prayer of surrender. There's no need to recite flowery words. Speak sincerely, as if confiding in a close friend. Lord, I surrender my fears to you. May I see your light guiding my decisions. By uttering this hidden truth quietly, you create a direct connection with the source of courage and wisdom that transcends the limits of the rational mind, ensuring that the flame of faith continues to light the way, even in the background of a simple workday. Another habit that strengthens the inner flame is keeping a revelation journal. Throughout the week, jot down impressions from dreams, sudden sensations, or insights that arise during inspiring readings. By recording these perceptions, whether subtle, like a shiver when reading a verse, or more intense, like a flash of understanding about an old decision, you create a personal map of transformations. This exercise not only reinforces the impact of prophetic experiences, but also builds an archive of signals that, when revisited, reveal patterns and provoke reflection on your evolving mindset. When it's time to rest again, before bed, seek a moment of prayer of gratitude. Take brief stock of the day, acknowledging small victories, an act of patience, a kind word, or a thought that replaced fear with confidence. Giving thanks for progress, even if it seems modest, strengthens the conviction that the divine fire is not extinguished by adversity. It is from this gratitude that new seeds of hope are born, ready to germinate into future dreams and decisions that solidify an ever-increasing journey of faith. For those seeking to deepen this practice, I recommend establishing a small symbolic altar at home, composed of an object that represents the refinement of fire. It could be a candle, a sun-warmed stone, or even a shell carrying an incense stick. This altar should be located in a discreet but visible corner, so that when you pass by, you are reminded of the transformative energy it holds. Offering a few words of prayer to the altar with a sincere heart brings a materiality to the process, transforming the abstract into a tangible meeting point between everyday life and the mystery revealed in prophetic dreams. Furthermore, incorporating daily readings of sacred texts or the writings of recognized prophets helps nourish the hidden truth that emerges in dreams. Take a few minutes to reflect on passages that speak of fire, purification, and renewal. Allow these words to resonate internally, strengthening your resolve to walk in faith. If possible, share your reflections with a trusted person, a friend, family member, or a small study group so that the impact expands beyond yourself. The power of community, after all, enhances transformation, as one person's testimony reinforces the flame in another, creating a multiplier effect. In your everyday decisions, whether in the workplace or in your personal relationships, remember to bring to light the lessons learned about the fire that consumes fear. When you're hesitating between a safe choice and an opportunity for growth, ask yourself which decision reflects the confidence renewed by prophetic fire. This simple question serves as a beacon, helping to distinguish fertile ground from the field of ruins that our insecurities often create. With each conscious step, our mindset adjusts, replacing hesitation with an impulse to act, and the inner soil prepares for projects that bear the mark of hope. To make all of this sustainable, set aside a weekly moment to evaluate your transformation journey. This isn't a rigid checklist, but an honest encounter with yourself. Ask yourself, in what moments have I felt the flame of faith burn brightest? What situations have revealed areas that still need refinement? Write down these answers with compassion and use them as a compass for subsequent prayers and meditations. This cyclical process of evaluation and adjustment ensures that the flame remains alive, guiding your trajectory toward achievements that resonate far beyond your immediate goals. Finally, remember that true transformation is not a one-off event, but an ongoing journey, marked by decisions that reflect the new mindset forged in the fire within. Each prayer practice, each record of revelation, and each courageous choice contributes to a lasting impact, weaving a web of experiences that sustain the flame of faith day after day. By cementing these habits behind the scenes of your routine, you make real what began as a prophetic dream, the certainty that even amidst challenges, there is a divine fire ready to purify, inspire, and renew. Now, I want to delve even deeper into this topic, exploring dream recording techniques and interpretation methods that will transform your practice into a powerful tool for self-knowledge and purposeful decision. Comment below. This resonates with me. The journey we began that night of fear-filled dreams culminated in the fire that illuminated our darkest fears, transforming every fragment of insecurity into light ashes, ready to be carried away by the wind of renewal. From the moment I felt the darkness tighten my chest until the gentle light emerged from the ashes, we traveled a path of profound transformation, a true journey of self-discovery where internal trials gave way to a rebirth of hope. Now, looking back, I see how each step the dread that gripped my veins. The moment my heart nearly leaped into my throat, the red and gold flash that revealed hidden meanings constructed a mosaic of revelations that echoes not only in the memory of that dream, but in the way I choose to live each day. It's remarkable to recognize that fire, once feared as a destroyer, became a tool of purification, extracting what was holding me back. The flames, so vivid in color and heat, acted like a crucible, refining my mindset and opening the way for decisions based on conviction, not hesitation. Later, the ashes bore witness to the cleansing process, and the light that eventually emerged illuminated the fertile soil where a new sense of purpose blossomed. This progression from fear to fire, from ashes to hope, reflects a powerful truth. In every phase of trial lies an invitation to embrace a growth mindset and discover strengths that had lain dormant. However, this story doesn't end there. The impact of these revelations goes beyond dreams and invites us to bring into waking life practices that keep the flame of faith and courage alive. Every choice we've made so far, allowing the fire to burn, embracing the ashes, and making room for the light, reveals a clue about how we can face real challenges, maintain a confident stance in the face of uncertainty, and find meaning in seemingly mundane decisions. The depth of this process shows that the most lasting transformations happen when we recognize the hidden truth that we are capable of being reborn from our own difficulties. But there's a next step to explore. The fire of purification isn't just a one-off event, but an ongoing mechanism of inner refinement. With each new phase, whether a professional project, a personal crisis, or a moment of doubt, we can summon the same symbolic energy that led us to overcome fear. Bringing this lesson into our daily lives means paying attention to the small sparks of intuition, the subtle signs that emerge silently, revealing when it's time to let go of old worries and embrace new perspectives. Perceiving the impact of these micro-revelations gives us the freedom to make bold decisions, following a script that our soul itself has designed in prophetic dreams. As I revisit this journey, I realize that the true invitation lies in recognizing the transformative power of the unconscious and responding consciously. The phase of fear that nearly immobilized me was necessary for me to appreciate the strength of my inner fire. The remaining ashes were the soil where I could plant seeds of faith, and the light that blossomed showed me the path to choices more aligned with divine purpose. This sequence of spiritual and emotional backstages allows us to integrate the dream experience into practical reality, generating a positive and lasting impact on our minds and hearts. As our narrative nears its conclusion, albeit temporary, For the journey continues, I invite you to reflect on your own journey. Think about the times when fear has confronted you, the moments when you felt your own shadow shatter your certainties, and those occasions when an unexpected spark brought renewal. This entire journey serves as testimony that, even in the darkest hours, there is an invisible fire, ready to purify us and guide us toward a horizon of renewed hope. Have you ever dreamed about something that changed your life? Share your experience in the comments. Your story might inspire others. If this video lit a flame of hope in your heart, like it and subscribe so you don't miss the next prophetic messages. Until the next awakening, and if you've made it this far, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for embarking on this journey of transformation with me. If this message was for you, leave a comment saying I'm with you until the end, so I know we've walked this path together. Take advantage and give me a like. That way we can strengthen the connection we've built throughout the video. To continue diving into this topic and discover how to apply it all in practice, there's a video right here that complements this topic. Click and stay with me there. Seriously, it will be worth every second.